And now, a Native Podcast with Matt and Zach.
And welcome back to another episode of A Native Podcast with Matt and Zach. I am Zach, and with me as always is Matt. And I got to start it off as always and say, Matt, buddy, how we doing today?
I'm doing really well, man. I feel good. The sun is shining. Looking forward to be out in Montana this weekend.
Yeah, you'll be here in just a matter of a couple days now. It's Tuesday and you'll be here on Friday. So it's going to be exciting going a little shell powwow, going 49 in, huh?
Bright and early. I wonder who scheduled that flight for me.
It was based on price. And actually, really, the other ones were like later, like the way, like it was like $700 compared to like $100 kind of thing.
Well, and Great Falls probably only has so many flights coming into that town. So
I think they have like two a day kind of thing.
that's
One in the morning, one in the afternoon. And I was like, I don't want him getting in at midnight if we're going to be waking up Saturday morning. Much rather have you get in early, do
Oh,
stuff.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Friday, or a day early too,
I
Friday.
don't mind, man. I got up at 3 a.m. with my parents to help them for
Yeah.
their sale because we had to drive 2 trucks with trailers over to the place they're having the sale. I'm like, oh my God.
Was it good? Was it a good
You,
sale?
you know Coquille, Oregon, kind of more toward the coast. So it rained off and on all day. But the people over there are so used to the rain that they came.
Oh,
Like there was like all kinds of people there. Even met
nice.
a native lady from Cheyenne River, Sioux of all places.
Of
Like, how
course.
did you end up here?
There's always those natives too that you run into at those events. You're like, you're native, huh? And it's like random ass, like, okay,
Well,
you're not like even native from Oregon. You're native from
right,
yeah. That's
right.
funny.
It's random, man.
Nice. Well, that's good. Before we get into today's topic, and today's topic is another one of those hard hitters. I'm excited for it because it's one you and I kind of take a little more passionately. Mascotting, if you don't know me, I was the mascot at Oregon State. So I have a mascotting experience and I'm kind of into it. You see things, and then just Native Americans being mascots, learning about it and being native. So learning about that. But as always, you usually have something fun to get started, get the podcast opened up. What is that today?
Yeah, well, this is related to our topic today,
Okay.
Scott. So there's a current case happening, and let me pull it up here. The
Yeah.
current case happening in Pennsylvania, and it's with this, might butcher this name, Susquehannock Warriors, which is a high school in Glen Rock, Pennsylvania. So basically what happened was back in 2020, um, the state and the county decided to do away with the mascots in
Right.
Pennsylvania. And so 3 years later, um, basically it was a more conservative, boards and stuff decided to challenge that. And
Oh,
now,
okay.
now this mascot is back.
Oh,
And so it's been this back and forth battle with people who are saying it's offensive of Native American heritage in the area, with the school, the state and the county, and it's like it's a tug of war basically because
interesting.
they changed it and now it came back.
Right. I
So
think
really interesting.
that is, I mean, and as you say that, I think kind of my stance, right? And that's kind of what I want to say is before we get into this is
Mhm.
I my opinion is if you're not Native American, you don't get an opinion in this situation.
Right.
It's not about you. It's about us. So let us deal with it in our ways. There
Right.
are groups that are for things, there are groups that are against things.
Mhm.
And we'll get into that today because, again, like I'm for it in ways and I'm against it in ways. When you have a predominantly white school calling themselves the Warriors or the Chiefs or the Redskins, that's not necessarily healthy. It's not creating a healthy environment. But
Right.
when you do have the Browning Indians or the Poplar Indians, and it's a native school district, it's native students, the population of those schools are 80% native kind of thing, like,
Right.
yeah. In a sense, it makes sense because it was like back before there were team names, it really was like, yeah, the Indians are coming to town. You know, the
Right.
Billings team is playing the Crow because the Crow are coming up. And I think that's part of it too, was they are like we're not large areas. A lot of these reservations are in remote areas. A lot of native nations are kind of remote in that sense or smaller.
Mhm.
So it was like, yeah, get the Indians together. So I think versus like, no, that was that town, that was that little group because they had enough, they established
Right.
different times, and as we've evolved now, 2024, definitely it creates issues. And I think when you have these things that do create issues, you got to look at the types of issues they create
Oh,
and
right.
when and where it is appropriate, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And in this particular situation, reading into it here, it's a primarily white suburban town in southern Pennsylvania.
Right,
And it's this like the older generation of people, it's always been this. They get attached to because they went to school at a time where
right.
no one even protested it, right?
No,
Really. Um,
and it was
so
we were considered mascots, and I get it too because then you have like I have native friends, native family members who are fans of like the Washington Redskins or the Cleveland Indians. Neither of those teams no longer exist in the namesake, but like Ray, Ray, he's an
yeah,
Indians fan. And I
yep,
think part of the reason is because it's like, hey, they're the Indians, I'm an Indian, I'm an Indian in that way. Yeah, it's part of that, like kind of like that is me. So you have both sides, but it's
oh
when
yeah.
I think the non-natives get involved in how they treat it. Because like I went to a Cincinnati Bengals Kansas City Chiefs game and I saw a guy wearing chicken feathers basically as like a war bonnet. And it's like, you know how disrespectful that is? That would be like me showing up and burning the cross. You know,
It's
and you'd
it's
get
so
pissed
bad,
off if I did that. They
right.
fucking people would throw riots and burn down buildings. That's how mad they would get.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
like, but it's okay for you to do that to my culture. What makes it okay? Nothing. You
Yeah.
know?
It's so yeah, it gets really it's the people that get attached to them get so upset when they're removed, and it's like
Yeah.
it's so interesting how attached they get to me.
Oh, exactly. And it's I don't know if that's still that like like that mysticism of kind of we talked about that with Lou on that interview with Lou, kind
Right.
of where natives get like mysticized, and it's like we're also normal people, man. Like
Yeah, like you got a Ford F-150, like I
yeah,
got a Toyota Tacoma.
yeah. I don't ride a horse. Yeah, exactly. I care about gas mileage. I care about things that matter. No, exactly though.
Right.
And this is one of those things that matter. And I think when you look at this subject, you have to, again, I think look at it from the indigenous perspective, from the tribal perspective, and we're going to get into that. Matt, I want to ask first though, where do you stand on this whole mascot? Um,
I am well, I'm gonna mention my dad really quick because
yeah.
he's interesting. Roseburg here in Oregon was the big Roseburg Indians.
Mm,
They were the biggest high school in the county I grew up in. They've been the Indians for years.
okay.
Uh they even they in the past it used to be worse. And what's interesting is they're in a county where the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Indians is located in that same county. Uh, my dad was kind of like he didn't really care. He's like either way, if they change it, like it doesn't really like there's not enough natives in that county to
Right.
like for it to be like you know what I mean. So he was kind of like fine with it either way. But my personal stance, and that's how he is at large as well. But
Right.
I'm just using a generational gap
Yeah,
kinds of.
yeah, yeah.
I personally, um, Redskins obviously is like not okay.
Right.
It got removed. For example, the imagery is more offensive, I think.
Right.
Sometimes it depends on the situation. I am neutral about the Kansas City Chiefs
Okay.
personally. The name I'm okay with, but the imagery like is like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they toe the line in that weird way. It's like
Yeah,
they
yeah.
act like we're honoring and we're doing this, but in reality, it's like we're just kind of turning a blind eye.
Like the Chiefs and the Braves are in the same
Yeah.
category. Now the native imagery I don't like. I
Right.
don't think but yeah, Indians, Warriors, like race, the actual like race, Indians,
Yeah.
Redskins, like not okay to me. Um, tribes, they make their own choice.
Right.
It's a tribe name like the Utah Utes, the Ute people back, the
Right.
Utah Utes. That's their choice. That's not my group.
That one's just right. And that one's interesting to me because I don't think in the beginning days when the Utes were using that name that the tribes necessarily were consulted. I think it's kind of a more of a modern thing. Like they've now done it, which is good.
Well, and I think the Ute people, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that native students within the state of Utah get free tuition there. And I
Okay.
think that was a big part of the negotiating for them to keep it right. So that's like a smart move, actually.
No, and it is, and it should be, in that, and other colleges should follow suit in that way because it is just an honorable thing. You like Lou, when we were talking about the sovereign land, right? You're going to recognize that this was once our land that you stole, and now you put your public universities on it, but you're not,
Mhm.
you got to make those opportunities available for those native students.
Right.
Different podcast. Um, but yeah, no, I think we are on a very similar page
Yeah.
when it comes
Yeah.
to that. Um, I kind of the first thing getting into, I looked in, I found the AP News had an article on kind of the Chiefs and kind of Native American mascots that I'll read here.
Okay.
Um, the battle to change the use of Native Americans in logos, team names, and fan-driven behavior has often been in the bright spotlight due to major sports teams. The NFL's Washington Commanders changed their decade-old name in 2019, while the Cleveland baseball team became the Guardians in 2021. Protests are being planned at the Super Bowl once more in response to Kansas City Chiefs. But beyond the high-profile fights to change the names, mascots, team identities, there are battles going on in local communities. It is a rare move for the Pennsylvania district to reverse course, but it's not the first time. At least two other school districts in Massachusetts and Connecticut reverted to logos that many Native Americans have called offensive. A number of states have passed legislation to prohibit mascots in the years since. Nash in the years since. Nationally, the largest nonprofit dedicated to representing Native nations, the National Congress of Indians, NCAI, has worked to challenge the use of Native imagery and logos in mascots. The organization maintains a database tracking Native mascots and has found nearly 2,000 schools still use them. At least 16 dropped their use of Native imagery or names between March of 2022 and April of 2023. Numerous studies have found that mascots are harmful to the mental health of Native students
Mhm.
and increase negative stereotyping of Native people in non-Native students, says Laurel Davis Delano, a professor of sociology at Springfield College. The mascots are all historic and often inaccurate. Deceptions erasing the fact Native people exist today, she said. And though to some mascots it can seem like a positive representation on the surface, they're adapted from a bloodthirsty warrior stereotype, which is historically used in a genocidal way, Davis Delano said. It's hostile when the mascot exits. It's hostile during the change and hostile afterwards because even when they eliminate native mascots successfully, there still is backlash, she said. There's still people holding on to it and purposefully displaying it, and that lasts for some years. Most of the time, people shift over and are good to go, but there are the people who hang on. Malayan Bryant, Penobscot Nation tribal ambassador, remembers having a visceral reaction to seeing mascots as she was growing up. Mentors in her life helped her speak out about it, and her work resulted in the 2019 law in Maine to prohibit them in public schools and colleges. School has it pressure of homework. School has its pressure of homework, socializing, sports, Bryant said. Seeing non-native peers act out stereotypes dressed up with feathers and war paint adds a layer for native students. An assault on something core to who they are, she said. Adults put their pride and resistance to progress above what students really need, she said. The students in teams and towns are just as proud of the new mascots. Some schools, like the University of Utah and Florida State, have agreements with local tribes to use their name and imagery. The Seneca Nation approved the use of native imagery in the Salamanca School District due to its location on the nation Allegheny Territory and large percentage of Native American students and staff. One group of Native American Guardians Association, which has Native American membership, has pushed for the continuation use of the mascots across the country. Speaking at Southern York's County School Board meeting on January 18th, members argued removing the logo would be a erasure. Supporters agreed and said use of the warrior head image denote positive features and did not erase history. They sent droves of emails pushing for reinstatement, board member Jen Henkel said during the meeting. But opponents who vastly outnumbered the supporters speaking at the board meeting criticized reopening an issue that was decided years ago. Jen Henkel said during the meeting that every single board member, save for one, lost re-election or did not run. Other candidates who did not support reinstating it lost too, she said. The majority of the community had spoken on this issue loud and clear. You may not like the results, but here we are, she said. After a lengthy presentation, debate, and public comment, the school board ultimately voted to reinstate it, 7-2. Board president Nathan Henkel did not return a message seeking comment. The board's decision and Native American Guardians Association's push through is in a direct contrast to the Native family and the community in southern Pennsylvania and descendants of the local Constantogga Squaxaconack tribe who sent a letter decrying the decision. Today, their tribe, which is not federally recognized or state recognized, has about 50 members. We give more energy to an inanimate object than we do to actual human beings, said Chesterfield Hall, a member of the tribe. Andrea Leagon, a tribal elder, said the mascot is a misrepresentation of their identity. And that was about that one that you were talking about there in Pennsylvania, but also talking about other tribes.
Yeah, the Maine I've seen with that state has a lot lately too. I've seen with mascots.
Oh yeah, no, New York just passed a law where
Right.
they kind of got rid of it throughout the whole state. And other places have kind of put that on the docket. Not all of them have gone through. Right now, I'm actually going to show you a movie or a video, a short.
Okay.
It's not really a movie, of Proud to Be. It's about
Okay.
mascots. It's the one NCAI put on.
So before we segue, I had a quick just add on to what you just said.
Go ahead.
I think it was really important you highlighted that study they did of like Native youth development and like self-image, because you can imagine kids seeing that and they're Native and then they just have all these identity issues that come up or like feel ashamed to be Native.
You
Right.
do that. You devalue yourself a little bit.
Right.
You see
And
it as people kind of make fun of me.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other theme I was thinking about with professional franchises is like they value their profits so much.
Yeah.
Like the Washington Redskins, like with Dan Snyder was just, it made me so mad with him because he was such a asshole about it.
No, exactly. And I do have them on the agenda, so we will get
Okay. We'll hold
but
that
no,
up.
exactly what you're saying. Like it's when you look at minor league baseball, okay, kind of to your point,
Yeah.
they're always putting out new jerseys, they're always putting out new logos, they're always changing team names, changing logos, because rebranding makes more money.
Mm.
So it pisses me off when they say like, oh, it's going to cost us to change all the jerseys and logos. You're going to make more in the end because all those fans who have Redskin jerseys now have Commanders jerseys.
Yeah. No.
So I'm gonna play this video from NCAI.
Okay.
Proud, forgotten, Indian, Navajo, Blackfoot, Inuit, and Sioux, survivor, spiritualist, patriot, Sitting Bull, Hiawatha, and Jim Thorpe. Mother, father, son, daughter, chief. Apache, Pueblo, Choctaw, Chippewa, and Crow. Underserved, struggling, resilient. Squanto, Red Cloud, Tecumseh, and Crazy Horse. Rancher, teacher, doctor, soldier. Seminole, Seneca, Mohawk, and Creek. Mills, Will Rogers, Geronimo. Unyielding, strong, indomitable. Native Americans call themselves many things. The one thing they don't.
Okay, and then I'll edit it in there. So that was brought to you by NCAI. Kind of on their website where this video is located, they have a long-standing opposition to harmful native-themed sports mascots. As the nation's oldest, largest, and most representative American Indian and Alaska Native advocacy organization, NCAI has long held a clear position against derogatory and harmful stereotypes of Native people, including sports mascots, in media and popular culture. Since NCAI launched its campaign to address stereotypes of Native people in popular culture, media, and sports in 1968, significant progress has been made in pursuit of ending the era of unsanctioned Native-themed mascots. NCAI's position is clear, long-standing, deep-rooted in our 78 years as a leading voice in Indian country. We advocate for and protect the civil rights, social justice, and racial equity of all Native people in all parts of American society. They share the unified voice of hundreds of tribal nations representing millions of Native people, and the voice has been consistent and clear for decades. Unsanctioned sports mascots are a symbol of disrespect that degrade, mock, and harm Native people, particularly Native youth. NCAI's work to retire Indian or Native-themed mascots used interchangeably is guided by our numerous resolutions pertaining to cultural appropriation and harmful effects of these mascots. These resolutions passed via consensus among NCAI membership emphasize the importance of education means of tribally informed curriculum, such as stereotypical appropriation gives way to sanctioned representation. For years, NCAI largely focused on its efforts of ending the Native-themed mascots at the professional level, at directing specific attention to former mascot of the NFL Washington Commanders. In 2022, NCAI formally expanded the initiative to work at the K-12 level, which included the development of the National School Mascot Tracking Database. In 2021, NCAI further explained the initiative to include work at the state level, developing a state activity tracker and engaging directly with state legislators pursuing mascot bans through legislation. NCAI's Ending Indians Mascots initiative currently focuses on 3 primary levels at the K-12 school level, the state level, and the professional sports level. To request NCAI's help at the K-12 level or state level, please email mascots@ncai.org. So that was kind of what they had.
And that's a great video too, because again, it like humanizes Native people. It's like the tribes they're from and the culture. It's like we're still here.
Right. Well, and the term red skin comes from the scalping of natives.
Right.
Like it doesn't come from and it's you know what I mean? Like where
Right.
the usage of it,
Mhm.
right? People don't understand where the harmful usage began. We don't throw the N word around. Not allowed to do that. So why are we throwing the R word around?
Exactly.
And kind of like you said, the what kicked it off and really was George Floyd and his murder really got pivotal things moving. That's when
Mhm.
you saw a lot of the mascots get removed, even off of like the Land Lakes butter. You don't have the native lady there anymore.
Well, and
The
the joke was they removed the native and kept the land.
I know, right? No, exactly. And they did.
Right. No, but
um,
like the George Floyd thing, it
yep.
spurred all this activism that you're talking about,
Yeah.
and in all these movements in other areas for people of color, and
No, exactly. And then we saw that happen. We saw the mascots go, and I think that was kind of what pushed this wave of like, hey, we have native people have been fighting this thing a lot longer, and you're going to get Aunt Jemima removed, you're going to get Uncle Ben removed.
right,
Why are we being left out on especially the professional level with the Redskins at that time?
exactly.
Kansas has a good article here, a pivotal moment in team names. And this kind of talks about what we're talking about. What changed was the murder of George Floyd, said Crystal Echo Hawk, the founder and CEO of the advocacy group Illuminative, and it changed everything in this country. The origin of that name, rooted in murder, violence, genocide, and hate, she said last year, it's a dictionary defined racial slur. A strong plurality of buying public agrees with her. In the weeks that culminated with the Washington team's announcement, Adweek reported 87 investment firms and shareholders worth 620 billion sent letters asking FedEx, Nike, PepsiCo to stop doing business with the team if it didn't find a new name. The letter to Nike cited the Black Lives Matter movement and said that we are witnessing a fresh outpouring of the opposition of the team name. Therefore, it is time for Nike to meet the magnitude of this moment, to make their opposition to the racist team name clear, and to take tangible and meaningful steps to exert pressure on the team to cease using it. Summing it up, Doug Farrar wrote in USA Today, the team did not change their name for that offensive moniker until there was massive pressure from advertisers and minority shareholders. Owner Daniel Snyder had said for years that he would never change the name. He held a fast on that for 20 years until money talked. Speaking to NPR, Emory University's marketing professor Mike Lewis said, I think we've reached a point where the Redskins is now more of a burden than a benefit to the team.
Did you know there's a new native apparel company?
No, I did not.
It's called Shop LS 574, named after the 574 federal tribes and the Little Shell descendancy of its founders.
Wow, that's really cool, man.
It is. It is becoming a spot to order native apparel by and for natives, working with native designers and teams to help best represent Indian country.
That's awesome, dude.
For sure. Now make sure to go pick up some Native podcast swag as well as other native gear while shopping at shopls574.com.
Oh yeah, and do not forget to use code ANP10 to save on your next order.
That's ANP10. Hey Matt, did you know there's a tribally owned net company?
No, I did not.
Not only are they tribally owned, but Blue Ribbon Nets also creates totally sustainable products. With Blue Ribbon Nets, not only are you getting quality nets, but even eco-friendly ones as well.
That's awesome, dude.
It sure is indeed. Make sure to use code RUGAROO10 on your next Blue Ribbon Net order to save. Again, the code is RUGAROO10, RUGARU10.
I am definitely getting a Blue Ribbon Net now.
Tune in every Tuesday to hear your favorite native podcast.
That's right. A Native Podcast has new episodes every week. ranging from boarding schools to Indian child welfare.
Not only that, but we have Indian country covered from Maine to California and Florida to Alaska, Hopi to Blackfeet and Choctaw to Tlingit, and all those Crees in between.
And all you other natives and non-natives out there, we want to remind you to tune in this Tuesday to A Native Podcast.
They go into the long-term influence of sports teams' names. The impact of the team's name transcends money. The question of how to move forward affects the team and communities nationwide. After endorsing the Washington name change on the grounds of the old version is a slur, Forbes' Eric Macramala went on to say there are also many team names like the Indians and Chiefs that are not slurs, but still perpetuate a stereotype. The brave and bloodthirsty noble savage warrior dressed in a loincloth and feathers, ready to scalp the enemy. Indigenous people are not one-dimensional, mythological creatures. They are modern people with proud histories who occupy all walks of life. As Professor Daniel Cobb of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill has said, there are people with a past, not people of the past. And with those people, when we use names like Indians and Chiefs and Braves, alongside bears, lions, and tigers, cardinals, cubs, etc., it hints at a zoomorphification of indigenous peoples, and that underlies these team names. The use of these names as a sports team moniker in the context that can be dehumanizing. It spawns behavior that is profoundly disrespectful, including fans appropriating sacred symbols of such honor as eagle feathers and headdresses and converting them into costumes. A member of the Tulalip tribe, University of Michigan professor Stephanie Freiberg has spent years studying the psychological effects of Native stereotypes and logos on Native Americans and non-natives. She found that exposing Native American teenagers to Native sports mascots decreased their self-esteem, lowered their achievement-related goals they set for themselves, and diminished their sense of community worth and belief that their community can improve itself. It actually lowered Native high schoolers' self-esteem more than giving them negative statistics about Native American communities, like high suicide rates, depression, dropout rates, Freiberg said in a July interview for Politico. That really gives you a sense of how powerful the imagery is. Her studies have also shown that the use of Native mascots increased suicidal ideation and depression among Native Americans. The effects extend beyond the Native American population. The research shows that the use of Indian mascots increased stereotyping of Native people as primitive, aggressive savages, and it leads to the dehumanizing Native people. And there is evidence that when exposed to Native mascots, white college students are more likely to discriminate against other people of color. The benefit to using Native mascots is that we have research showing that whites get a boost in self-esteem. It is not just the Washington team. The interview notes that it's not just Chief Wahoo, the minstrelish cartoon logo that the Cleveland Indians shelved in 2018. It's not just pro franchises like the Atlanta Braves or Chicago Blackhawks. It's more persuasive than that, and state sanctioned, and it's state sanctioned. We have thousands of schools in this country with Native mascots, Freiberg said. What is the goal of school? It's to give chance a kids to be their best selves, to choose whatever career path they want. It's truly what educating our children is about, and there's no place for Native mascots in schools. Americans need to ask themselves, why do I want to hold on to something, especially if I know the science tells us it's harmful to that group? Either you want to honor Native people or not. Just say it. You don't care, and you don't want to honor Native people. You're fine if it hurts them. You just want to play Indian.
Oh, wow, that ending there.
Yeah.
Damn.
Truth, though, I mean, it is. They want to play Indian. They want to play Cowboys and Indians. That kind of bullshit. That it's a joke.
It really bothers me too that, like, with the Redskins, the fact that franchise was in our nation's capital city. It couldn't have been in another city. That was just icing on the cake.
I think that was part of the issue. Is
Right.
that it was kind of saying, yeah, America, hey, yeah, we conquered you in that weird way, right? It was like a kind of waving that flag in your face.
Right.
I won the prize. We won your land.
I would throw it in the same category as like a Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And where it's located, pretty close to the geographical center of the continent.
Yeah.
And then how sacred it is, the Lakota and the Black Hills being like
They and
Like,
I honestly think they knew it was sacred to the Lakota people.
right.
And that's part of why they said, let's put it here. Let's
I think
they did everything in their way to make us feel less human.
right. And I think the representation of it though, being kind of in the center is like toward all Native people, not just the Lakota. Like,
These
right.
are your new grandfathers.
Yeah.
These are the white grandfathers you follow, is what it
Right.
was.
Right.
You know?
But yeah, and then the Chiefs, I was gonna go back to that because the name, like I'm okay with the name. It's a lot of it's the fans' behavior at
Right.
games too, which is another, that's like a third part of it, even that's like they take on some racist behaviors too.
Right. And in 2020, they did ban headdresses and Native American style face paint at Arrowhead
Right.
Stadium.
Right.
However, they still do the tomahawk chop, which people have. That's kind of another issue that natives have, is the tomahawk chop. The that kind of. So
Yeah.
people are against that. Deb Holland has called them out.
Okay.
The reasoning, and if you go straight to the Kansas City Chiefs website, I'm trying to see where their thing is right here. The Kansas City Chiefs were named for H. Rowe Bartle, the mayor of Kansas City in the early 1960s. Nicknamed Chief, Mayor Bartle was instrumental in attracting Lamar Hunt's American Football League franchise, the Dallas Texans, to Kansas City in 1963 with a new home in the state. Hunt's franchise needed a new name, and longtime Chiefs executive Jack Stedman recommended the name Chiefs as an homage to Bartle's efforts. While the origin of the team's name had no affiliation with Native American culture, much of the club's early promotional activities relied heavily on imagery, messaging depicting Native Americans in racially insensitive fashion. Over the course of the club's 60-plus year history, the Chiefs organization has worked to eliminate this offensive imagery and other forms of cultural appropriation in their promotional materials and game day presentation. To enhance these efforts, in 2014, Chiefs leadership initiated a dialogue with the American Indian Community Working Group, a collection of leaders from a diverse group of American Indian communities in Kansas City and the surrounding area. The club's leadership asked the working group to educate them on key facing issues in Indian country, to evaluate club practices and traditions, including the game day presentation, and to offer guidance and direction on ways the club could do better to honor American Indian culture. As a result from those conversations, the Chief organization implemented several changes to the game day presentation at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium, including continue honoring tribes with a historic presence or connection to the region by celebrating American Indian Heritage Month games at the field, hold ceremonial blessing of the drum, which is used as various parts of game day elements for home games, blessing of the four directions, regular feature American Indian representation as part of game day elements, including national anthem singers and color guards. The club has also addressed issues of cultural appropriation with the outright banning of headdresses and face paint at the stadium on game day. The team retired war paint as an ambassador for the Chiefs brand as part of the game day experience. So that's kind of where they sit.
Well, it's good there's been some changes though.
Right. They're kind of one of those ones that is, hey, we're doing the stuff that you say to do. We like our name, I guess.
Right.
The one of the teams that did change their name, the Cleveland Indians, that one comes from they in 1897, the Spiders signed Louis Sock Alexis, who became the first Native American in professional baseball. On March 10th of that year, it was written in the Plain Dealer newspaper that Sock Alexis was to be a fine outfielder and a wonderful batter. That season, he hit .338 with an .845 OPS in 66 games. But Sock Alexis battled alcoholism, and his addiction led to his dismissal from the team in 1899. When referencing the Spiders, the clubs often associated with that disastrous 1899 season, during which the team finished 20-134, according to Baseball Reference.
And now we'd like to take the time to take you to music on a Native podcast. This is where we feature Native American musicians and their music. This week, Snotty Nose Rez Kids featuring Dreezus, Indigenous Resistance.
Yesterday, North Dakota looked more like a war zone than the site of a protest over the construction of a pipeline.
Trying to find the way. To my natives trying to find the way. To my natives trying to find the way. To my natives trying to find the way. But instead they getting pepper sprayed. Locked up behind these bars, $100,000 bonds. Tell me, how do we respond? We stand strong and we carry on. I stand tall and I salute you all. But when you can't afford freedom, what the hell you fighting for? We're fighting for this water, so I guess my life's the price of war. Are they gangsters or military? Crooked cops or choppers ready to pop, pop. Dirty Harry, cause our buried ancestors are being fucked with. Tell me who to trust when they digging up a cemetery. That's just how they treat indigenous, breaking laws and treaties, and they spin it like they innocent. If we the same species, why the hell we treated different? Why'd you all turn your backs on our murdered and our missing? On the highway of tears, Mother Earth is weeping. I'm a man trying to understand the cries of a woman. Man, they're both life givers, they can't be resurrected. We gotta put it on a man because a man are the protectors. And we flip the flag around. I am proud of my country, you can burn it to the ground. Here's a nation in distress, but it's hard to pretend like we ain't used to this yet. Talk to 'em.
Can a real warrior stand up while the feds call for backup?
A woman took the lead, can the real man up? Our people come in peace, don't shoot, I got my hands up.
Pure indigenous resistance. This is how to fight the system.
Put the patience and persistence in the world as a witness in a fist to the sky for the indigenous resistance.
I heard the pain in the war cry, speaking tongue to the moon, yeah, shoot or get you die. Breastplate covers up a broken heart from the very same folks who said they got her from the start. She don't trust nobody. Memories of priests throwing babies in the oven. Shower with the nuns before she had to cook them supper. Taking all her clothes off, cut the braids off her. Systematic with the madness. Gives them false sense of status. But that don't mean shit, cause when your ass die, what you gonna leave with? Let my spirit fly. Brave like the Iroquois, deep like the Plains Creek. Nope, we ain't fearing none. Put your little red fist up. Tell the man you ain't fucking with a sister. Can a real warrior stand up while the feds call for backup?
A woman took the lead, can the real man up? Our people come in peace, don't shoot, I got my hands up.
Pure indigenous resistance. This is how to fight the system.
Put the patience and persistence in the world as a witness in a fist to the sky for the indigenous resistance. Take a look at how the cards were dealt. Can't nobody feel the pain we felt. I hope that history don't repeat itself. Generations that were taught to hate themselves. Give us the land that you don't want, that happen to ring a bell. The way we standing up, we gotta bite nails. Our land is sacred, but the buyers are making sales. So they're like, wait, let's take it back so we can increase our wealth. Who's the real Indian giver? History books are bullshit. It's like y'all taught us Thanksgiving dinner. I beg to differ. They called us savages when they're the real killers, and gave us liquor to kill us quick. As far as I remember, that residential fucked the mental. That shit'll haunt you while they fuck their sons, fuck their daughters, fuck their land, fuck the waters. Understand we never faltered as they tried to kill a culture. They be so quick to leave us like Ted Mosby at the altar and say get over it, like it's irrelevant. We never die, we multiply, and this are revenant. What up? We've been oppressed since the day before for fucking ever. Huh? So why the hell you think we stand together? Peaceful protector shot and thrown in jail is what I'm seeing by disrespectful and neglectful human beings. So it's us against the world now. I'm dead serious, cause the only time they rooted for the Indians was the World Series.
Can a real warrior stand up while the feds call for backup?
A woman took the lead, can the real man up? Our people come in peace, don't shoot, I got my hands up.
Pure indigenous resistance. This is how to fight the system.
Put the patience and persistence in the world as a witness in a fist to the sky for the indigenous resistance.
And that was Snotty Nose Res Kids featuring Dreezus, Indigenous Resistance. If you or someone you like would like to be featured in music on a Native podcast, please email us at gng@gng.net. Thank you. Now back to the podcast.
What's interesting, that guy
Yeah.
from Cleveland, that the one name you couldn't hardly pronounce there, Jim Thorpe had a very similar experience with, like, because he battled with alcoholism in his later athletic days too. And I'm thinking, like, they're in a time when just the racism they must have experienced from all even their teammates. Like,
well, you know, they
so
can't
much.
stay in hotels and shit.
Right. And it's like, that would be hard to mentally deal with, like, every day, you know?
Right.
Like, it's crazy.
No, so this comes from MLB.com. They're saying, while the tale has often been told because Sauk Alexis died in 1913, the team was named the Indians in his honor, but that is unlikely. His years with the Spiders coincided with the club's decline, and his departure from the team was not positive. His stardom in Cleveland was not the same as LaJoie's, which made it less likely the team would be named after him. There's old newspaper records that show baseball writers were left to vote on a name and decided on the Indians. In 1914, the Boston Braves had won the World Series, which would lead to some to wonder why the name was for Cleveland. The last place team that season was inspired one that experienced by great success. I do know there were other Native Americans on Cleveland's baseball teams in the early days, so I think that was also it was the Cleveland Indians were coming to town kind of vibe, like, oh, the Indians are coming, we're playing the Indians kind of vibe is the lingo that got out. But yeah, that's interesting. That was MLB.com on that. With the Chicago Blackhawks, and I've looked into this one too. This is the other one, right? They're the hockey team.
Yes.
So Blackhawk was a leader of the Sauk tribe.
Right.
And they actually sided with the British in the War of 1812.
Mm-hmm.
He also led the Black Hawk War to get land back from the U.S. in 1832. They adopted his logo and the name Black Hawk and the Black Hawk character for military uses off of him. Okay. The hockey team then gets named after these military things that were named after this guy, right? And then they take his imagery. So Black Hawk is the logo. You see that
side of the face of him. Yes. And
there are some of his own family members who say we don't want that. Yet they if you go to the Chicago Blackhawk website, they say they honor the tribes, this and that of the area. They work with the Sac and Fox tribes of that area. There's even a partnership with Trickster Cultural Center and what they do to help kind of teach about Native imagery kind of in a more positive way. Very similar to like what you're saying with the Utes and Florida State Seminoles. So
that's a unique one, I would say, in the sense that that's this particular chief that's named after, and the family is like saying no.
No, exactly. But the tribe is okay with it. The Sauk tribe is okay with it. The Sauk and Fox, so
in Oklahoma today.
Yeah. No, they end up in
the Iowa one too. That's
That's the one I think they do more work with.
Okay, interesting.
Right.
And then on that note, the Portland Winterhawks
have
their Winterhawk.
They stole that logo.
They stole the logo from the Chicago Blackhawks, but they're using Native imagery, and it's like, why don't you have a bird?
Right.
It's a winter hawk would make
a hawk.
sense. Yeah. A hawk. Yeah, there's hawks here, right? So
right.
That one's like, what?
They're one of those teams doing that where it's like you see high school teams that take like pro logos or college logos and make them like different colors. Like
Well, I'm really
that.
shocked in Portland of all places, you're not having any protests.
I'm
Like,
the pretendians would rather call each other out in that area.
right. Portland's so weird. I I don't even know. But
Right. So the tomahawk chop is a controversy with the Atlanta Braves. That's a big one.
oh
The,
right.
the commissioner of the MLB is in support of it. It thinks
Oh,
it's
wow.
fine. There are tribal groups that don't want it. So that's another one that's going on with the Braves. They're trying to go away with the imagery. The Braves minor league team even changed their name to no longer be the Braves. So
Wow.
that was interesting to me because you're like, that's another like, well, if your minor league team's doing it, why aren't you doing it?
Right.
So some of the many colleges that have changed their names.
hmm
You had Illinois Valley Community College, Southwestern College, California, Memorial University, Newfoundland, Bradley University, Chowan University, Husson College, University of West Georgia, Quinnipiac University, St. Bonaventure University, Indiana State University, Oklahoma City University, Springfield College, University of Massachusetts Level, Seattle University, Stonehill College, University of North Dakota, Eastern Michigan University, Adams State University, Arkansas State University, University of Wisconsin La Crosse, University of the Cumberlands, Dartmouth College, Juanita College, Midwestern State University, Martin Methodist College, McMurray University, Minnesota State University, Manteco, Montclair State University, University of Nebraska, Omaha, University of Louisiana at Monroe, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, Newberry College, University of Southern Colorado, Stanford University, Siena College, College of William and Mary, Yakima Valley Community College, Southeast Missouri State University, College Ahuntsic, that's up in Canada, Morningside College, University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts, Knox College, Nebraska Wesleyan University, Colgate, Southern Oregon University was the Red Raiders. Now, like the red tail hawk is kind of what they call
Right.
it. They're no longer native imagery. Cathridge College, University of Massachusetts Amherst, Northeastern State University, Ripon College, St. John's University, Simpson College, University of the Rio Grande, Miami University, Southern Nazarene University, Dickinson State University, Eastern Washington University, Southeastern Oklahoma University, Syracuse University, Hartwick College, Marquette University, Eastern New Mexico, right? So right there, those are all the ones that have changed their name. So like
That's a lot.
yeah.
That's a lot of schools.
And you know, I'm seeing 2015, 1994, 1973, 2006. So these are all the ones that have changed them. And some of them like went from like the Red Man to the River Hawks or to the Red Hawks. You have the Moccasins went to the Mocks. You have the Plainsmen went to the Prairie Wolves. The Mohawks went to the Trailblazers. You know, so
Right.
just different things that it's interesting how they change and do that. So those are one college teams that have changed. Some of the ones that are still in existence. You have the Alcorn State Braves, the Lycoming College Warriors, the Eastern Connecticut State Warriors, the East Stroudsburg University of Pennsylvania Warriors, the Merrimack College Warriors, the University of North Carolina at Pembroke Braves. They have local ties to Lumbee, is what it says. University of Hawaii Manoa, Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. That the Hawaiians do support that. Wisconsin Lutheran College Warriors. Schools granted waivers to retain their nicknames after gaining support from respective tribes. Catawba College, Central Michigan University, Florida State, Mississippi College Choctaws, University of Utah Utes. The NCAA did not cite San Diego State, the Aztecs, because they don't have modern representations.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, and then even non-NCAA schools, you have Cone College, Muskogee, Oklahoma Warriors, Cochise College in Douglas, Arizona, the Apaches, Haskell Haskell College, the Fighting Indians, Lewis and Clark State College in Lewiston, Idaho. So these ones are native. Yeah, I'm reading the cities. I'm like, oh
They're
yeah,
a native area. Bacone, my cousin went to Bacone College, and it's the Muscogee Creek tribal.
yeah,
Tribal, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So they use it. The Fort Peck ones, the Buffalo Chasers up here, what they call
Okay.
themselves. So yeah,
Buffalo Chasers.
yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Wow.
So those are some ones. Yeah, but people don't realize like the big ones, like Stanford or Marquette or
Right.
University of North Dakota, Eastern Washington,
Right.
were all ones that changed their names, So
Bird's
it's
big
good
one.
to see. I do remember when you and I were at the Longhouse working and the OSU alumni lady came and they made buttons, remember, of like the
Oh,
Beavers beating up
yes.
the Indian for like Stanford. And I think personally, I was like, I want one of those buttons, you know?
Because you want the souvenir.
Yeah. And she got rid of them all, but I was like, those would be dope buttons to have. I remember that.
Well, and I think wasn't it Allison Wide Eyes
Yeah.
that she saw that and was like, I'm just gonna throw all these out and we're not gonna hear any more about this.
Pretty
Because
much.
she didn't want it making it into a bigger thing. She said, I don't want to deal with this. So we're
Pretty
just gonna
much.
remove them.
Pretty much. No, you're
Yeah.
absolutely it was like
That is, I remember that. I do remember that. That was interesting.
Lastly here, kind of when we get into high schools, right?
Yeah.
So secondary schools with names. I'm just going to read the names because it varies. Like the Apaches, for example, right here.
Oh, right. Right.
You have Antonian College Preparatory High School in San Antonio, Texas. It's a co-educational Catholic high school. They call themselves the Apaches, right?
Oh, wow.
But then you have the Fort Thomas High School in Fort Thomas, Arizona, and 93% of the student population is Native American that calls themselves the Apache. So for like there, it's like, well, that's okay. But
Right.
a Catholic school in Texas where there's probably how many Apache school, kids go there,
Right.
that to me is the issue. Arrows.
Okay.
I'm okay with that name.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. Arrows.
It's a weapon, and other tribal people have used arrows as weapon, and non-tribal people
across the world, even with arrows.
exactly. Aztecs, that is interesting.
That's an interesting one though, because I feel like now there's some Hispanic or people in the Hispanic category that probably don't like that one.
No, and I agree with you. I think that one, if it's the same, it's the same reasons for Native American. It's
right.
You're not honoring the culture necessarily. The Big Reds.
Okay.
Part of it is using Native American headdresses or Indian head logos, and the ones that use it look like white schools just based on where they're located. The Blackhawks, that's another one. A lot of them use the Chief Blackhawk logo. There's a ton of high schools. I'm talking, there's a big list of high schools that use Brave or Braves, both native and non-native. You can see here. The Brownies. There's a school in Massachusetts. So they got rid of the native imagery, but not the name.
Wow.
Interesting. The Cherokees, lot down in Tennessee, Indiana, Georgia.
Okay.
So I'm sure I just gotta, like I said, get the tribal approval, work with the tribes. Chickasaws, same thing. Chiefs, again, that's another one. I mean, there's other types of chiefs again, like Crazy Horse High School uses this, right?
That's Pine Ridge. Yeah.
But there's other ones too that don't like I'm sure Hubbard High School in Cortland, Alabama,
Yeah.
The Chieftains, I think when it's used in that way, that is more Native American appropriate, that verse, you kind of like what you said with the Chiefs earlier, where it's like the name itself isn't necessarily offensive. It's the imagery that goes along with it. Cause you could be a chief, you can be the chief of the fire department. How do you use the imagery around it? But where chieftain is really, I think that is a native word for chief. You know,
Right.
all these ones, the majority of these
It's
schools.
like multiple chiefs, right? It's
Yeah.
chieftains, plural more. Yeah.
Well, it's like you know, Calumet High School, Oklahoma, Crow Creek High School, South Dakota, you know, Shiprock High School, New Mexico. There are some other ones, chieftains in there that aren't, but a lot of them are. Chippewas, I see
Okay.
Ontario. That would make sense.
Yep.
Choctaws down in Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Um, Comanches, Dene Warriors. Well, yeah, Cuba, New Mexico. So I think that one, yeah. Eskimos. There's one in North Dakota. Yeah, no, there's no
Oh, wow.
Eskimos. There's no Eskimos there in
That's
Michigan
yeah,
or New York. I'm
not the
sorry.
Arctic yet.
Yeah, no,
Still
exactly.
woods. There were if trees still grow, you're not in the Arctic.
Here's one. In Aniak, Alaska, they are called the half breeds.
Oh, what?
Yeah, so
That one I think takes the cake of today's names.
I mean that's kind of one of those ones, but it's probably the most true because it's like, yeah, we're mixed, native and non-native.
Right. There
The
must be a
Huron,
lot of them there, maybe. I don't know.
right?
You have white and native up there.
No, exactly. The Hurons there in Michigan. There's a fuck ton, a lot that are called the Indians, and a lot that like are in non-native places. You can see.
Right.
So, and there are some in native places too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that's one that I think, yeah, if you're native, sure. If you're non-native, get rid of it.
Mhm.
Little Green, I didn't realize that's a native word. It's in New Hampshire. Must be something up there. The Maidens in Pennsylvania. Yeah, that was
Just yeah.
the boys team is the Indians. So
Right.
yeah, the Mount Marauders. They use Native American imagery.
Oh, okay.
Mohawk. You know, I could say if you're the Mohawks, but it's a lot of people who aren't. The Mohegans in West
Okay.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Red Devils.
One right here in Oregon. Coquille, Red Devils.
This one says Utah.
Okay, Coquille changed to something else, I believe.
Are they Red Raiders or something like that now? I wonder, or maybe
No, they're not even a native. They used to be the Coquille Red Devils when we lived there when I was a kid.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
They use the native imagery. So
well, and it's like the Coquille tribe is nearby too, so it's kind of
right.
well to them. But yeah, they used to be the Red Devils growing up.
Oh, interesting. Good to know. Red Raiders is another one. Red Men, Reds, Redskins, Renegades, Shawnee in New Jersey. They just used imagery. Skahems, I don't know. SACHEMS, that must be a tribal word over in Massachusetts, New Hampshire.
Oh, by the way, you know what? They weren't native. They were an actual red devil.
Oh, they did the devil
horns and shit.
Yeah, but some probably do. I mean, that one did, you know.
Right.
Saras in North Carolina, Savages. A lot of those are in Oklahoma, actually, majority.
There's a lot of them there.
Yeah. Scouts in Illinois, they use native imagery. Seminoles, kind of that's down at Florida, Georgia. There's one in Ohio, New Jersey. So I think like the ones that aren't, you know, Senecas in Ohio, Sioux, you have Lower Brule, North Dakota, West Slope, Sololin, squaws. Yeah, no, squaws. That's an offensive term.
Yeah,
that's one that I don't care, even if you're a native team, like even no native women call themselves that.
They're not. Yeah.
Thunderbirds. A lot of the ones that are in, but like
Southwest,
the Detroit Easel Ford High School in Dearborn, Michigan, where the Ford Motor Company's headquartered, is called the Thunderbirds.
Oh,
so it's one of those. It's a native word that has been.
They use it for the car. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Tomahawks, Tribe, Womps. That one was from the Wampanoag people, and then Warrior. Those are kind of the big ones. A lot of schools are changing them. More need to do it. I know New York kind of had a thing. I know Minnesota's talked about it. Montana gets talked about. But that's kind of where we talked about mascots today, Matt.
I think we covered it.
Do you think?
I think we covered it. We could always talk about more, I'm sure.
Oh, we were. I mean, we could talk about each one of those names and get into the reasons why and why not you can use it, and that's it. Really, in my opinion, it is let the tribes and the native people decide. If you're not native, you don't get an opinion on the situation.
Right.
We don't get to say what the KKK does. No, just kidding.
Right.
But
Exactly.
yeah, man, final words.
Hey man, I think I brought this up to you before we started talking today, but like you just said it right there. You got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So a good example of a community of Irish Catholics who support their
Right.
own name, right?
Right.
Just like Browning Indians, you use that example, right?
Florida State Seminoles.
Florida
Exactly.
State Seminoles. So there are examples out there if you really want to be prideful in yourself in a respectful, appropriate way, right?
Right.
So
Nice.
yeah.
That's
Or
good.
the Scandinavians is another one I've seen. Like, right, like I mean, you're prideful in being Norwegian, Swedish, or Danish, right?
Like
So
the Vikings, kind of. You see
yeah,
that.
the Vikings, the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's ways to do it. So,
Yeah. And I mean, natives do that, but it's the native community embracing that, right?
right.
And the thing is, it's the native community who is not embracing it when there is outlash, right? That's the other thing too. It's like you don't see a bunch of Viking people change the name, right? No,
Right.
for the most part, they all kind of support it. Whereas like native folk, they oppose it for the most
Right.
part. If
For the
it's that kind of, like the Redskins, for example, is kind of the, like, if you go to that was the two they would compare, I'd see.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, just be smart humans. And why do we gotta spread hate and hurt each other? There's no reason for that.
No.
I feel like people, that's all they wake up and that's what they want to do. And it's like, like it doesn't affect you. It's a fucking t-shirt, it's a logo. In 100 years, it might not even exist anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh.
who cares? Let's have fun. And that's the point of the sport, is to have fun, to enjoy each other, to interact with one another in a positive manner, in a competitive manner. But that is, in a team building community, that respect, all that comes into sportsmanship, that is supposed to be represented. And this is one of those things that, if you say you represent sports and you're doing all this stuff, why are you doing that? Why are you spreading hate? Like, just fucking think. That's it. Change your name to the dogs, the cats. Like, come on, it's not that hard.
It really isn't.
No.
It really isn't.
That's all we got for you. But until next time, bye-bye.
I know ballers, I know chiefs, I know riders from the east. I know educated natives down to picket in the streets. Middle fingers to police, fuck you, we come in peace. I know red-skinned hippies that be giving me the creeps. I know beauty, I know beach, I know savages and freaks. And I know a couple cousins even bougier than me. No, ain't elite, bougie native, yes indeed. Art exhibit to the club, and we roll it 20 deep. Copper on my neck, gold on my ring, feather on my hat, skin stitched chin. 100 warriors on my back, they be drumming when I sing. Man, there ain't no way around it.
A Native Podcast is produced by G&G Advertising and Quartz Lake Productions.